Hi, my name is Rich.
And my name is JoAnne.
Together we have 2 daughters and 5 grandsons. I've always known Jesus because I grew up Catholic in Chicago, so all through 8th grade, um, I've always, had to go to church because it was part of the schooling. I went to church on Sundays, and so I've always known about him, but I never actually knew him. My mom and dad were divorced when I was 10. I was 10 years old when they got divorced, and I felt my father was always he was good as far as to us. He wasn't like that, mean person that, well, at least not to us, I guess, more so to my mom maybe. He would always try to spend a weekend with us, and he'd take us to the park, and hang out. But that was really about it. It wasn't like, there was a lot of bonding going on, because when we were at the park, we used to go to Humboldt Park, and so it was like the hangout spot for everybody in the city. So, they're all there drinking their beers and chit-chatting and having funs, and all the kids are just running around playing, until it was time to go home. When I was dating JoAnne, she had gotten sick, and she went to the hospital. Remember that? And so I had gotten home from school, and I found out about it, and so I had a couple friends plan on picking me up because I wanted to go see her. So I told my mom I was going to go to the hospital to go see her, and my mom, she went crazy. I stood up and I yelled at her, and I told her that she didn't know what she was talking about, and she was talking like a crazy woman, like she always does, and whether she liked it or not, I was going to leave. And just then my friends had pulled up in the car, so I got in the car and they took me to go see her. And I got home later on that night, and she started bickering and yelling because I was gone and I didn't listen to her. So I left. I called my dad, and he had a big empty house. It was just him. So I called him and I told him I wanted to move in with him. I was 15 years old. And he was like, all right, let's go, come on. You could live with me. So I did. I grabbed a few belongings I had, which were just all my clothes. I left everything else there. And I jumped on the bus and went to his house. When I was with him at 16 years old, I started working at this factory where my mother-in-law was a supervisor. And I met some guys there, and after work, we used to go look for drugs. We used to steal car batteries, used to steal rims and tires off of cars, car stereos, and take them to this spot in the city where they would buy all that stuff from you, And then that's how we got our money to go get the drugs. And I think that's where everything started, with the drugs. I wasn't so much into the gangs. Well, I wasn't into the gangs, although I knew them all because we grew up together. But because I was in sports, they would always, back then, the gangbangers back then were, they were lenient towards people that were in sports. They were like, hey, leave him alone. He's gonna be a future Hall of Famer baseball player or something like that. So they were more lenient towards that. But if you were out there talking to them, on your way home, and someone saw you from a different gang, you're affiliated with that gang regardless of the situation, because they don't know. They just know that you were with that person.
You walk down the street, you always watch where you're going, If you're outside with your friends, car comes by, you're watching to see who that is, because you don't ever know who's going to start shooting at you.
Yeah.
And that was what we were raised. It was always just survival, because, I've been shot at twice. And, I've never been affiliated with a gang. I knew them too, just like Rich did. And I understand now. I was raised with my grandmother, and she was always really strict. When the lights turned on, you're inside. And I understood that now, because you don't want to be out at night. But a lot of this happened during the day.
Yeah.
During school hours. So it was a lot of survival that we learned as really young. You had to.
Yeah, in order to make it through another day.
Because we grew up in the inner city. We didn't grow up in the suburbs. We grew up in the inner city, where you learn to survive, you learn to fight. Yeah. And that's what we did.
After we met, we we dated for 3 years.
But yeah, about two.
About
About 2 years.
2 years. We dated for 2 years, and then shortly after that, JoAnne found out that she was pregnant with Vanessa. So she moved up here, and I stayed in Chicago. And I used to come up on weekends.
I told him he can come if he wanted to, but I was not raising my children in Chicago. That was the truth, right?
Yeah,
And
it was.
He did come.
I did. After work finished, I came up and then found a job here. You know, went to work daily. You know, but I always found myself diverting back to. You know, I was out seeking something else. You know, back then was drugs and alcohol when it should have been Jesus. Ended up learning a hard lesson. Went to jail for a little bit. That kind of woke up the inner part of me, you know, because when you're in there, you know, they tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And I didn't want to live my life like that. So that's when I started looking for answers and reasons for life itself. You know, I knew there had to be something better than just, you know, being born, having a wife, and having kids. So I picked up the Bible in there, and I started reading it. The whole time I was in there, and every night I would read it, you know. And I didn't read the whole thing through, you know, but at that point, that's when I wanted to know more about him. And when I came out, I felt like throughout my life, when I came out, is when I started experiencing different things. A lot of it was just in general situations that I was in, you know, as far as I think I don't know. I think the one that would stand out the most was that one time at Stevie's wedding. I had a headache all day long, all day, for some odd reason. And so we went out for the bachelor party. I didn't do anything. I was their designated driver, and my head was pounding so hard that I couldn't keep my eyes open, and I didn't know why. I thought, because my work wasn't hard that day, so it wasn't a stress headache. And so in my car, when it was my younger brother, my older brother, and myself in my car.
The three brothers.
Yep. And then my friend of mine that came from here, Gabe, he picked up Carlos and a friend of ours from Chicago. And so Gabe was driving them around. And so we were following each other. So there was 6 of us. So we went to drop Carlos off first, my brother-in-law, and he lives in the Latin King neighborhood. And so when we get to the parking lot where the school is, where he lives at, we sat there idling for them because Gabe was a few blocks behind us. And my head was pounding so hard that I was just sitting there like this, just rubbing my forehead. And my older brother was sitting next to me. He goes, "Hey, what was that?" And I was like, "What was what?" And he goes, "That whistle. I know that whistle." I was like, "What are you talking about? I don't understand what you're talking about." I looked over at him, and he goes, "That's a gangbanger whistle." And I'm still like not understanding exactly where he's going with it. And I was like, "I don't understand." And when I looked forward again, I saw a shadow at my driver's door window. You know, and when I looked, I seen someone standing there with a gun at the window. So at that point, you know, I just threw the car in reverse and I backed up because we were in a school parking lot. And when I backed up, you could see the bullets flying. So I kind of freaked out a little bit, you know. And when I backed out and the bullets sprayed, he walked out to where, you know, in front of the car, and he pointed the gun at us. So I put the car in drive and I punched the gas and I went forward. And my intentions were to run him over. And he jumped out the way, and I exited the school parking lot onto this road. It's a one-way road, one-way street going northbound. And so I got probably half a block down, and another car came out and pulled out in front of us and blocked me in. And so there was no other way to go. And you got cars parked on both sides, and then that car was blocking us. So I put the car in reverse, and I was going to just try to back out as best as I could because I knew there was a side street further down, and I did. I did that, and just as I got to the street was like right there, I could see it. Another car came and blocked us in from the backside. So now we're blocked in from the back, and then we're blocked in from the front. And then when I looked inside the parking lot, that guy that had the gun wasn't by himself. There was probably like, I don't know, 10, 12 of them, you know, and they had bats and chains. And then I knew the guy still had the gun and was coming towards us. So I didn't know what to do, you know. So at that point, I just put my car in drive, and I drove as far forward as I could, and it was a front-wheel drive car. So my first intentions were, I had my older brother who can't walk because he has cerebral palsy. He can't walk good, so we couldn't run. We couldn't just ditch the car and run. We had to leave, and we had to leave with the car. So my younger brother was in the back, and he's a diabetic, so I knew that, you know, if we tried to ran, I probably would be the only one to get away. So when I lunged the car forward, my intentions were to go as far forward as I could without hitting the guy in front of me, and then jam it in reverse and hit the guy behind me because, you know, the back end damages, I can still move the car. So that's exactly what I did. I slammed the guy behind me multiple times until I was able to move his car back enough where I can make that right turn and get out of that street. And that last time I did, when I made that right turn, as I looked, they were like literally feet away. So if that last impact didn't hit it, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't be here today. When I made that right turn, I immediately shut the lights off because my first inclination was that they were going to try to follow us. And I didn't want to go where JoAnne and the girls were at because I didn't know how far they were willing to go. So I shut the lights off and I drove down every side street, and my first inclination was I was going to go to my uncle's house, who wasn't too far from there, but, you know, I knew that, you know, there I'd have some backup. And so I shut the lights off, didn't stop at one stop sign, didn't stop at one red light. And I'm telling you, by the grace of God is the only way, because not another car in sight. I mean, every light was, although they were red, and when I went through them, there was like no traffic. No traffic. And stop signs, I mean, like I said, I had my lights off, so I know they wouldn't have saw me. And I just floored it and kept going. And I got to my uncle's house, and I got out and woke him up, and he came out, and, you know, I sat on the sidewalk and I literally cried, you know? Mm-hmm. And it was by the grace of God that he was able to maneuver us through there. And yeah, it was a scary moment.
Yeah, it was.
Because, yeah.
What you had told me that, you know how people say that your life flashes in front of you?
Huh.
And that's exactly what he
happened?
saw. He saw his life flashing in front of him. And the girls and me, and to me that was a big eye-opener for you.
It was, because I think I came back a different person, because I knew that I couldn't have maneuvered what I did. I couldn't have thought of that game plan. I couldn't have thought about leaving my brothers, you know, and that was the Lord working to get us out of that situation that the devil tried to put us in, you know. And it turned out to be that it was just, we were at the wrong place at the wrong time.
It's an initiation night.
Yeah, my brother-in-law, who lived there, he knows the people because he's lived there for such a long time. When he did some legwork and he found some stuff out, and it turned out that the shooter was only a 13-year-old boy. His initiation to the Latin Kings was to shoot the people that were in that car.
Regardless of who it was.
Yeah. And the good Lord didn't want us, and he had more for us. That would probably be my big Jesus wow moment.
Yeah.
That's when I came to find him, and I knew that because of him that I was alive that night, and my brothers were alive that night. So there was a big turning point in my life at that point, you know, and
we've gone to different churches too.
Yeah.
You know, we have, and not as steady as we are actually here at Vertical. I mean,
Right.
we love it here.
I think the turning point for us was when we went to a bigger church. One day we got there late. Remember that? And we got there late, and it had already started, and I kind of thought to myself at that point in time, you know, it seems like we just come here just to come. We weren't really getting anything out of it, you know. We can easily stay at home and no one would ever notice that we didn't go that day, you know. And I felt like I wanted something better out of it, you know. And Vanessa had just moved back. Vanessa and Ryan had just moved back from North Carolina, and I believe she had just started working here. I can relate to a lot of the things that Pastor Josh says, and there are times when he's preaching something that's like, wow, you know, I
Stop
just
looking
had
at
that.
me. Nah.
I just had that same scenario happen in a couple of days. I felt just like that, or you know, I can really connect with what he says and what he preaches. So I really enjoy coming here, and I really look forward to that timeline when it's like my turn to come, you know, especially when I'm serving. And I think today we're stronger.
Our faith is a lot stronger.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
most definitely.
that's very important. You know.
Yep. Wake up every day feeling blessed, thanking the good Lord for everything He's blessed us with, our health, our children, our grandchildren, our finances, our journeys to work. You know, thank Him for His mercy and His grace, and there's no other way to live life but that way.